So I am in search of some men, specifically young white guys who move from the left to the right in this election, to just have a genuine, honest, good faith conversation about why your politics moved so drastically, and to see if it was one thing or if it was like a combination of things, and what those issues were. And I'm not going to judge you or anything. I'm not looking for like gotcha footage, so I can like tear down men or anything. I genuinely want to have a conversation. If you're interested, please comment to this video, or you can direct message me, and we'll work out the details and we'll have a nice conversation. So I just read this article from a bunch of young women who have young white male friends or relatives, and they gave their opinions on why their friends or their relatives shifted from the left to the right in this latest election. And so I just wanted to go through some of the answers because I think it's really interesting. So one of there was a couple themes. The first one I want to talk about are white men are being treated like minorities. They're being made to feel guilty, or they're being punished by the left or by society in general. So this one young lady said her boyfriend is very right leaning. However, a lot of his friends feel that the current way political and social discourse is going, there's a lot of focus on uplifting marginalized voices, and at times this can make them feel like their perspectives are being overlooked or dismissed. And she said, another one said that from the outside, straight white males get the worst deal in current society. Those guys can't win. They are told that they're all 100% racist, misogynistic, and transphobic. They're told that they are the more unsafe option compared to a bear. So I actually had one of my son's friends go off on me on Facebook over this bear man situation.
If I think I could stand a chance against a bear, then why would I be afraid of a man? And that's what so many of the guys getting angry at the women responding in the bear versus man video saying bear are missing. We don't have to live thinking about the danger of us every day. I made a sillier response to this question earlier, and there were several comments from women that said, I'd choose the bear because the worst that can happen with the bear is that it kills you. Another said, if I survive the bear attack, I don't have to still see him at family reunions. And another said, if I was attacked by a bear, at the very least, people would believe me.
I think that a lot of young men personalize this because they just didn't have enough experience to say to themselves, they took it very personal. So instead of saying to themselves, wow, these women who, commented and said, at least if the bear attacks me, when I tell people, they'll actually believe me that I got attacked by a bear. Or afterwards, I won't have to see the bear at family reunions. Like like they internalized it because they already felt like they were under attack. And so they took it personally and they were young, so they really couldn't see past themselves to the women who were saying this to say, wow, they must have really been hurt in order to be saying this. They just thought it was more male bashing. So she goes on to say there is no path to salvation for young white men. The world is saying that they're boogeymen, and we like to keep them that way. Is it any wonder that they're turning toward a side that doesn't want to keep them as a permanent fall guy? The men in my life are amazing, and it breaks my heart to see what modern society is doing to them. I don't know if it's just the cascade effect from the third wave of feminism, but something has got to change. The men and boys in our lives are struggling, and the right wing seems to be the only team willing to engage them as thinking people. I know lifelong Democrats who are new to Trump voters, who are, I think it's supposed to be, who are now Trump voters because of the alienation and general derision they see. They're perfectly reasonable people who have traditionally voted with the left and genuinely care for others. Still, even the most compassionate man can can do the cold math and change his vote when their party and the base demonize them at every opportunity. Another young woman said, I'm a Gen Z teen who lives in a very small southern town, meaning I get to experience and see the young men who dedicate their lives to Trump. I believe they are shifting more toward the right side because it's giving them a chance to still be in control. So they feel like their control is dwindling. I guess she means in general, in society, over women. I don't know. And that takes me to the next theme. Men are upset about the balance of power between men and women that have shifted. This one young woman says, many males are angry and want something to blame. Fox News has told conservatives that if they're not sex gods with $100 million in the bank and abs of steel, it's because of immigrants, welfare, feminism, liberals, etc. So I can see what she's saying there, but it's kind of, it's like a hyperbolic version of what Fox News is telling them. I actually saw Jesse Waters on Fox News during the election tell viewers that and tell men that if they voted for a woman, that meant that they were a woman, that would make them a woman. So, I get what she's saying here, but I'm not sure if I completely agree. Another young woman says, I think Trump makes guys feel powerful and sexually dominant by putting women back in their place in society. What other avenues do young men have in society to feel powerful? She goes on to say there are a few jobs, good jobs left. Not everyone has what it takes to be a doctor or lawyer. Do you think the 23-year-old guy working at the local gas station feels powerful? Most young people are stuck working dead end jobs, feeling like losers. Trump offers them a different version of society where they get to be strong, powerful, and the most important people in the room. So I think that there's truth to that, right? That's the vision he's offering. If nothing else, Trump tells a good story, right? And that might seem like a little weird because a lot of what he says is disjointed, but you have to understand that Trump is out there saying like things that are disjointed, but there's a method to his madness. And then he has like this whole ecosystem of right wing personalities, podcasters, influencers, OAN, Fox News, who are saying washing what he says, and putting it into context so that it does make sense. It makes sense that the disjointed things that Trump just throws at the wall makes sense to him, but it wouldn't really make sense to everyone else, and it wouldn't be as effective if he didn't have this entire ecosystem that is putting it into terms that people can understand. And this is the narrative that they've been pushing, is that with us, come to our group and you get to be the most powerful person in the room again. Come back to us and take back the mantle of white man. That means you get to be superior to all, to superior to women and all these people who have put you down and told you were less than, and told you were a villain, and told you that you were a predator, right? And that you're toxic. And it's very appealing, right? It's very attractive, especially to a young guy. Another young woman says, we're living in a time where women, trans, and non binary people are taking up positions of power more than ever before, feeling more comfortable breaking traditional gender norms. With that comes a realization for cis men that they are losing power in their society. So aligning with a political side that strips everyone else of their rights and liberties makes sense to them. We need more feminist men. So that's her opinion. This one was interesting because I actually do know a young man who was very preoccupied with the idea of World War III, and that Biden was going to get us into war, and that Biden was going to institute the draft and all that stuff. Ironically enough, anybody that actually like follows both sides of politics knows that it was very much the opposite, that Donald Trump has been saying that we need to reinstitute the draft since his first term. Oddly enough, he dodged the draft by getting a fake note from his doctor saying he had heel spurs so that he didn't go to Vietnam. But yeah, he's been saying that he wants to reinstitute the draft. He actually has been saying that he wants to go to war with Iran, and now, I mean, everybody knows he wants Greenland and all that stuff, and he's not discounting using military force. So what do you think is going to happen, right? Um, so this one, it says, my male friends believed wholeheartedly that Democrats were going to send them to war, so they voted for Trump, even though he hasn't, even though they thought he wasn't a good person. So even though they thought that he wasn't a good person and they might not have liked any of his policies, they were convinced that he was going to send them to war. So, that's a pretty strong motivator, right? If even like, a small percentage actually believe that, that's a pretty strong motivation. So there was a couple of answers that had to do with social media. There are no major left-leaning podcasts, YouTube channels, or social media pages. I mean, there are, but they're not as big as like a Joe Rogan or something like that. The current loneliness epidemic is having younger generations often only finding social solace online. Conservative right-winged social media, podcasts, YouTube videos, and news channels are dominating the younger male audience. So when they say news channels, they mean like the opinion shows, like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, those kind of things. Another young lady said that her ex-boyfriend fell down a TikTok rabbit hole of anti-woman content, where guys preach that women should stop being independent and go back to worshiping men. It's wild how many Gen Z guys are buying into these flashy, toxic narratives, blaming women for everything. So I actually know what she's talking about. I've seen these lives where they will put a very clickbait type headline up about women should submit to men, and they will actually argue this, and it's like, I'm not sure if they actually believe it, but it gets a lot of people in their live, and it gets them a lot of likes, it gets them a lot of attention, it gets them to argue, which makes other people come in and want to stay and watch the arguments. So I'm not really sure how many people actually believe this, but I'm sure there are some. But oddly enough, a lot of the content that I see that's like that are black men saying that. So it's black men that are saying, that I've seen anyway. And I mean, you could take what I say with a grain of salt because I've only been on TikTok a couple months. So saying, oh, it's, the ones I see are primarily black men is not really, it's not like a large pool of examples that I have to draw from. So I wouldn't say it's statistically significant, right? Just my experience. So I have a young man that I'm pretty close to. He's a young white guy, and we've had a couple conversations about this very subject. And before I go on, he actually voted for Kamala Harris, because he said that he could not worry about himself because no matter who was elected, Trump or Kamala, he would be okay. So he had to vote with the best interest of the most vulnerable people in our society. He said that was his civic duty, and he said that he was talking about women and people of color and LGBTQ people. But anyway, what he told me was young white men specifically growing up were told that they were lucky, that they had it easy because all doors would open to them when they became adults, that they would just be handed everything on a silver platter because they were male and straight and white. And perhaps that's a little bit of an exaggeration, like that they were actually told that, but it's pretty darn close to what they were led to believe by society, movies and media and stuff. That's what was pounded into into their heads, right? In women and minorities in our in our battle, our journey to equality. We constantly talked about the privilege of straight white men, right? So there was this narrative that we pumped into the ecosystem, that they had this privilege and that they always would, and that things would just happen easily for them and they really didn't have to try. And that women and people of color had to work 10 times as hard to get the same things that they were just handed just because they were straight white men. But because things changed like pretty rapidly. Um, by the time they arrived on the steps of adulthood, those doors began to close in their face. And that's what it felt like to them. And so you have a lot of these young men who are just turning 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, are just in the beginning of adulthood. And they're like, excuse me, everybody told us that we were going to have it so easy, and that it was, women and people of color that had to try 10 times as hard. And now we're just being pushed aside and demonized as being the problem, and that we just have to stand aside and allow somebody else to take a turn. And he said he understands that and he supports that, but it feels like society is saying there's no room for him in it anymore. Like it's not like we're saying to white guys, step aside and make room for us. We're just like completely pushing them out of the way and saying it's our turn. You had your turn. That's it. But in my opinion, right, we only get one life. Um, is it fair to make this generation pay for the sins of their fathers, literally? To have them pay with their one life that they have to give for what men did in previous generations? I don't know. It's just something that I've been kicking around and thinking about. And I mean, is it true? Are white men being villainized and pushed aside to make room for marginalized communities? Or is it just a perception that that is actually happening, being pushed by a political party that benefits from that type of narrative? So is it really happening, or is it just a perception that they're pushing in order to get these young white guys to turn on women and to turn on people of color and to go to their side? Because young people were like essential for Joe Biden's win in 2020, right? Like they talked about it endlessly about how young people came out in a big way. And while it was hard for them to get young women, because young women just, women in general just kind of despise Donald Trump, especially young women, young men were a different story. So that's a question, I have, is it real, or is it just the perception? Um, I would really love to speak to some, young white guys, or even like a little bit older white guys who switched from voting and supporting Democrats to voting for Trump. Um, I want to know what made them switch. What do they believe in now in regards to racial and gender equality and empowerment? Are they like so done with it that they're just like, no, we want, whether it's perception or not, we want our white privilege back, our white male straight privilege that everybody told us we were going to have. We want that back. Like, fuck y'all tried to push us to the side, so now no, like, we don't care. Or do they still believe in that? Do they still support populist economic policies, like the Bernie Sanders wing of the party? So do they believe everybody deserves health care as a right? Do they believe in trickle down economics now? I mean, because that's what the right, champions, that we give millionaires more money, and somehow that trickles down to the rest of us. I mean, do you guys believe that now? Um, do you believe in civil rights, right? Do you believe in civil rights still, that everyone's created equal? Do you believe that women should be empowered to make their own decisions, right, about their body, and whether or not they want to work? And do they believe that women should, be able to be promoted and be managers and run for, become president, or not? Have they been completely red pilled at this point? Do they believe women are inferior, or at the very least, believe that women should act submissively to help men feel more manly and stronger and have more confidence? Are they angry that women seem to be doing things for themselves now and don't have to really rely on a man financially or otherwise? Do they blame the upward mobility of women for their own lack of success? So, do these young men believe that society making all these spaces for women and promoting women to positions of power left less room for them to succeed, and now they want it, they don't like that, they think we should go back. They don't, maybe some of them believe, like these far right people believe and have believed, that women, they can do some jobs, but women should never be put in a position of authority over a man because it emasculates the man. Like, I've actually seen TikTok lives where people are making that argument. um how much of this rightward trajectory is a backlash to the Me Too movement? Do these young men, do these men think the Me Too movement went too far and villainized men, and that backlash is what led to young men moving to the right? Um, so if you are a young white guy, or like I said, even an older white guy who went from supporting the left to voting for Donald Trump in this most recent election, and would be interested in just having a candid, genuine, good faith conversation with me about it, please send me a message or comment on this video. I would love to hear from you. Like I said, I'm not going to judge you. I have a lot of young white men um, that I know, that, they used to be Bernie bros and they voted for Donald Trump, but I don't want to put them in a position. I don't want to, like, me, it would be, I think it would be uncomfortable for me to try to talk to them about these kind of things, because they would feel like that, I like, they would feel judged, or I feel like they might hold back with me because they don't want me to change the way I view them. So, but I mean, I would love to talk to them about this, but I honestly think I wouldn't really get really genuinely true answers out of them, for some of these questions. So if you, have, like, maybe 20, 30 minutes and you want to talk to me, we'll record it. And, once we're done recording it, if there's like anything that you want me to take out, I'll take out. If like you feel some type of way after we record it, you don't want me to post it, I won't post it. But yeah, I think that people would be interested in finding out some of the answers to these questions, and finding out the truth, not just the straw men, that we've been building up on the left and the right for each other. Let's have a real conversation about this, and see where we're at. Maybe it might be the case that we agree on a lot of this stuff. We might surprise each other. So thank you so much for watching. And like I said, please comment. If you have any questions that you want to know from the interviews that I do, please put them down in the comments. I would love to have everybody's input on what they think would be a good question for these guys. Something that you might want to know. I would love it. I would love to get your input on this. Well, that's it, guys. Again, thanks for watching. And please do all the things, what I'm going to ask. Please like and, comment, share, subscribe, follow, whatever, whatever platform you're watching this on, to help me grow my platform and help us continue to forward the conversation.